Bye bye bye
Bye
bye
bye bye bye
bye.
bye.
Bye
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 bye bye.
bye.
Hey, Ali Bailey,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm all right, Jody Raynsford. How are you?
All right, yeah, all right. How are you? How are you coping in this heat? Good, bad, indifferent?
I actually hate it. Like I hate it. I mean, I keep doing the thing where I'm like, well, winter is coming, and you're going to be going out in the freezing cold all the time, and you'll be missing it then. But if, to be honest, getting up at 6 and going out at 7, and it being still 24 degrees is unacceptable. If I wanted to live in a country like that,
It's
I'd live in a country
unacceptable.
like that. It's
I
completely unacceptable.
I want to. I
Um,
mean, we were sat outside in a pub last night, and it was like 10 o'clock, and it was warm. I mean, that's kind of like that's how I remember like holidays in Spain when I was like 10 or 11. Like
yeah,
that's kind of thing. You don't expect that in the UK. With global warming, what happens to the seasons? I'm not entirely sure what impact. Do we get? Does it get warmer in winter? Like,
no,
does it?
we
Will
end
it?
up with 2 seasons. Like Australia have two
And
seasons.
that's it. We
They have
just get rid
summer
of
and winter.
spring and autumn disappear.
Yeah, so we're gonna have extremes. So we'll have a summer and we'll have a winter, and that will be it. And we won't have anything in the middle. Everything will die. We'll probably die. I don't know, but same as you. I was sat on my balcony because I have one last night, and it was balm. It was to the point where I was nearly sweating. It was 10 o'clock. It was absolutely ridiculous. But I live in a house with stone floors and a nice, cool basement area, so I'm all right. But yeah, I'm not really enjoying
A
it. And
nice
then this
cool
weekend.
basement, hanging
I
out in
live
the
in.
basement to keep.
Yeah, look, I live underneath I live on the basement floor,
Oh, the
and then
basement
I've
floor.
got the
Oh, I thought
upstairs.
you made that sound like a kind of a dungeony type. Oh yeah, sometimes go and hang out in the basement, with
I
the.
don't have one of those, right? But Joe Butler, BBRC member and all-round legend, he's got a basement in his house in Bristol that he's never been in because him and his partner Lorraine are frightened that there is a ghost in it, and he says it's got velvet curtains and a couple of boxes, like like wooden boxes, like a magician would use, and they think that there, and I quote, is a girl in there. They've never been in it. It's
What
massive. It covers the whole bottom of the house.
what I like is if they think there's a girl in there, they're not even. Yeah, well, I'm assuming it's an actual girl rather than a ghost who's been in there. It's like Room. It's like they've been
Yeah,
in there just waiting for someone to set her free and living
yeah.
off
I'm like,
spiders and licking the walls for water and everything else. And their selfishness, their
they'll be
selfishness and the
done. They'll
scare.
be done for manslaughter. I'm telling you, they'll be done for
Exactly.
manslaughter. And loads of weird stuff happens to them. Like Lorraine once found a man pooing in the garden, and someone threw a dead fox over the wall. So I kind of believe there is a girl in there.
Yeah, someone threw a dead fox over. Where the fuck do they live?
What, in Bristol, in the middle of Bristol?
Oh,
Well, I remember
Bristol,
telling you.
Bristol. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Bristol. There we go. You have to
Yeah,
remind
we
me of
got a
that.
panicked call from Lorraine. She said someone's thrown a dead dog into my garden, and it turned out it was a fox, and they were
Oh,
notified
that's where you're wrong. I think you'll find it's actually a fox.
for a
So
fox.
you're
Yeah, don't worry about it. But
yes.
yeah, I don't know. Weird stuff goes on in Bristol, but I'm all right. I'm all right with the heat. I just don't particularly want to go out in it. Do you know what the worst thing about it is? Driving in it when your car's not a Land Rover Discovery, because it's just
Oh
fucking
no.
boiling.
I like to go and sit in the car sometimes and just drive around and then I realise you have to like balance. You're like, is the electricity what is worse here? Is it using driving around in the car in order to keep cool and using and chugging out diesel that's really expensive, or staying at home and then suffering lack of productivity because you're just boiling, but you're using all the electricity in order to try and keep yourself cool as well? It's just someone needs to come up with a calculator for
No, they
this.
don't. There's
They
loads of
do.
calculators on the internet. They don't. They don't need to do that because every time you look at the fucking internet, it's like, your fuel bill is going to be £765,000 next April, even if you've only got one light bulb. So I'm just no. Like, but you're right. Like, you can't get it right in this country at the moment, Jody. You just can't get it right.
So how
This
should people?
bloody
So how should people
country.
vote at the next election then?
Where's
Well, at least
where's Rishi's magic money tree now?
they keep promising this magic money tree. And it's got to, at some point, someone is going to grow a magic money tree. We
I
live
think
in
we should start rioting. Go back to the 80s or even the 90s or even the noughties. Start throwing TVs through the windows of shops. I think that's the only way.
looting. It has been a while since we've had some looting, hasn't it?
It's been a long time since we had some
You
looting.
do. It seems to be much more popular in in places in America, stuff like that, normally due to kind of some like race issue. Yeah, when was the last time we didn't? What was the issue? I can't remember that we. That was another race one, wasn't it? In when
It
they
might have
burnt
been.
down that man's carpet shop. I remember that. That was in Croydon. Do you remember
I'm
that?
going. Yeah, but I don't think was that race, or I think that was actually more about broken Britain Brexit stuff. When
No, that
was
was nothing to do with
the
Brexit. That was
last riot in
yeah. Remember they
Britain?
smashed up, and then they arrested loads of people, and then they found like people that were like marketing managers for thing, like been looting. It just kind of got all caught up with the looting, and yeah, we're getting like given these ridiculous like 10-year prison sentences for stealing a TV. Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
England riots. They were in August,
Oh, they're in August.
2011.
We're planning them
Saturday and
now.
6th of August. Hey, check it out, right? Today's today the 11th of August. Right, they went from Saturday 6th of August to Thursday the 11th of August in 2011. And they were widely known as the London riots, and they were a series of riots, and thousands of people rioted. That's how far I've got so far. Wikipedia's asking me to give them some money. And they did looting and arson, and it doesn't say why. It started in Tottenham, following the death of Mark Duggan. There you go. It was
Yeah,
Mark Duggan's death. Yeah,
it's a race. It's a
yeah.
race one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
God,
and
yeah, I
it went
remember that.
everywhere. It went to Hackney and Brixton and Walthamstow, all the trendy places. Peckham.
That was
Turns out, if you want your place to be trendy, you need to have a riot and then you need to regenerate. That seems to be what happens.
that was 2011. It only felt like that was a couple of years ago.
Well, it's its anniversary if you want to start a riot. A middle class one about the cost of petrol and electricity and sourdough bread and Lurpak.
Unbelievable.
Julius came round last night and said to me, I can't shop at the Co-op anymore. It's just too expensive. I'm going to have to go to Aldi and get my weekly shop. It's just like, so middle class, but so true. So true.
Yeah, it's like that when the pubs and everything are just like they're kind of empty. Like no one's in the pubs and no one's like doing anything. Everything seems to be empty, especially around where we are.
But on a more serious note, that's because people are cutting back on luxury. Like from what I do for my work, I am shitting myself because I'm a luxury item, and people don't want to pay for a coach when they've got £1 million electricity bill. So yeah, and you're right. Like going out and about in Wales in summer. Last week I was in Wales for a week. You'd expect like Penny Pass to have cars everywhere, people everywhere, like tourists everywhere, but there was hardly anyone. And I know I was in remote places, but we were driving to places to get buses and stuff, and there just was no one. I phoned to book a restaurant, went into the restaurant with my friend Kate. We were the only people in it. Mad.
Yeah, no, it's funny, isn't it? Well, it's not funny. It's bloody awful. Because I wonder, because that's the thing. I was talking to Andy Palmer about races, and he was saying that races just aren't filling up. Not talking about because he's in that obviously that race directors group, but like they're really struggling to fill to get people to come along to races, which the cost of living is going to be an issue. But also the other thing that I hadn't thought about, which is that volunteers, like people just can't spend the money on petrol to drive to a race to volunteer for it anymore,
No,
because the cost of it is too high. Which means
the
that
cost of all of it is too high. The cost of your kit is higher. The cost of your food is higher. But the main thing is the petrol, I think. And driving down to a race is going to cost. It used to cost you 30 quid. It's now going to cost you 50 quid.
Yeah.
And people's races have been backed up for a few years, and I get that. But I just think that buying a race entry is a luxury. Traveling to a race is a luxury. If you're self-employed, taking the time off to go to a race is luxury. You don't want to take that time off because you need to work every hour God sends to make ends meet. So it is a big problem. And the other thing is race companies will have to put their prices up because everybody else is putting their prices up. So, it's just a fucking nightmare, to be honest. I don't know when it's going to end, but I'm not going to get into an existential crisis on the Bad Boy Running podcast. I'm not sure
we scheduled that. We scheduled that for next week, the existential crisis episode.
Yeah, let's go out live on Radio 4.
Well, let me see. What should we seg into this? So, from existential crisis to finishing Run Brit, did you have an existential crisis after that?
I had a bit of a strange time of it. Yeah, it was very anticlimactic, extremely.
Was it?
Yeah, because it just was like.
And just one day you weren't running. That's it.
Yeah, like at the end of like a Centurion race or any other race, there's loads of people and there's noise and you get cuddles. At the end of this, we ran up to the thing. They'd elbowed a few people out of the way of the post. That we had these flags that were floppy. Lorna had some bunting, and everyone went yay. And then we were pushed out of the way by two hairy bikers in their motorbike who wanted to have a photo. And we had a non-alcoholic beer, and then we sort of looked at our phones and went, "Should we go and have a coffee then?" And that was it. That was literally it.
The thing is, I think it's very difficult ending a race like that as a British person, because if you're American, they'd be totally happy to like whoop and go crazy. And once one person's gone crazy, everyone else go crazy, and they can kind of they can really give it. But as British people, for us to like do that on our own in order to get it, you're just like, well, go on, someone else sound really enthusiastic, so I can kind of join in.
Excuse me. Would you mind? Sorry, I'm really sorry. Would you mind if we just have a photo excuse me, hi. Can we just have a photo by the post, please? Yeah. No, we've just run 1,000 miles the length of the UK. Oh, I'm sorry. You want a picture with your dog? Do you want me to take it for you? Okay. Should we just move out of the way and go to the cafe? It was like that. It was literally like that. And it's no fault of anyone's. It's just that's what it is on test riding. And I'm sure on the event it'll be a big old fandango, and they'll have like yellow flares, and there'll be like the drone, and like fucking I don't know, like Goggins will turn up to do the awards, or I don't know what will happen. But it just was a bit weird. And then we all sort of went for dinner, and we were all so tired. Like even at dinner, there was no champagne, there was no booze because everybody was still off the booze, and we were all in bed by 9 o'clock. And then we all got up the next morning, and we all gave each other a cuddle, and then we all left. And that was it. That was literally.
And we haven't spoken since. Is that the next bit?
We actually do have. We have a little support WhatsApp group going on. Yeah, because it's really horrible.
How's everyone else? How's everyone else coping with it? Because I imagine that this is for some people. This is going to be kind of like the biggest thing that they've done, or the most amount of the biggest multi-day they've done, or the only multi-day they've done. Because I think this happens a lot more. Yeah, it definitely happens a lot more multi-days, having that sense of it being like anticlimactic. So how's everyone else coped with it?
I think everyone's been all right. Me and Martin are the only people that live alone. So Joe's got Lorraine, and like Lorna's got Dom to chastise her for not finishing or not being fast enough or breaking the world record or whatever. And like they've all got their families and people to go back to, but me and Martin didn't. So, but Martin's very good at being a lone wolf, and I'm not very good at it. So I went straight back to my sister's house in Wales because I was like, I just need a person to be there, because you've lived with people for 35 days in very close quarters. Always have people to talk to who are having the shared experience and understand weird stuff like my bum sore and all that stuff. It's like being in prison. And then suddenly it's all gone. And also, don't forget that no one cares, because no one actually does care.
That's the difficulty.
There's no frame of reference with Run Brit. You've not broken a record. No one actually knows what it's like to run 1,000 miles, because no one has really done it.
Yeah.
No one understands the length of the UK. No one understands the half trail, half road thing, because it's not a thing. Whereas MDS, everyone's like, we all know what MDS is because James Cracknell's done a film on it. We all know what the Dragon's Back is because Hugh's done a film on it. We all know what this is and that is because we've watched all this stuff on it. But because it was a test pilot, no one really got what it was. So to come back, for me personally, I don't know how the others felt, but to come back and be like, people were like, how was it? And I literally was like, it was really great. It was very hard at times. I loved it. It was brilliant. Are you proud of yourself? Yeah. And I didn't want to talk about it any more than that, because with my family and people, because it just sounds wanky and like, just it's really difficult for them to understand. I was going to say the gravity of it. So I suppose or the scale of it. And I think in a few years' time, I think it will take a few years for us test pilots to get our heads around it. When we've seen all the rat race films and 40 people doing it, and it's a big fandango, and there's lots of flares and excitement, and
that's when you step out and go, oh, you kids. Yeah. Of course, when we pioneered
Trailblaze.
When we invented Le Jog. It was none of this. They didn't have shoes. There was none of this roads, none of this trail. This was all pines and sand and shit.
But it is very difficult to, if you say to someone I've run a marathon, everyone knows what London Marathon is. So even if it's like a White Star Marathon, they assume it's like that.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to get a handle on it yourself. And also, this looking back, like now, it just seems like a dream. Like when you wake up in the morning and you're fucking knackered, and you're like, I've got to go run 9 miles with the dogs. I'm like, how did I do this for 1 days.
It's
But I
weird,
did.
isn't it? And it's weird.
Yeah.
I think that's weird, like, and I definitely understand that. Like, you look back at like all like the achievements you've done, even like when you've done 100 miler, and then it's like a week later you're like, oh, I want to go up and run 5K. Oh, and
Yeah.
you just, well, how the fuck did I like run for like 24 hours like the other the other week? Like what was that? Why can't that like mentality kick in when I'm doing this, and for me to just go, this is pish posh, this is simple, this is easy, I've done that other thing. But for some reason, the human brain doesn't work like that.
Because you're with other people, it's that crowd mentality. So even if there's, so say you say to somebody, you've got a running buddy, and they come round every Monday for you to go for a run. You don't think like that. You get up and you don't think, oh, I can't. You're like, oh, I've got to meet Ian to go for this run. It's a very much a crowd mentality. And when everyone else is doing it, it's a cult. You do it, and you don't even question it. But when you're left alone to your own thoughts, you're like, oh, actually, oh, this, oh, that. Like, and if I'd have been alone doing that, I don't know if I would have finished it, because I just don't know if I could have fought against my own thoughts. This weekend, I've got to go out and do a recce with my clients for the Autumn 100. So it's 3 sets of 25 miles. And I'm like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to get up every day? How am I going to be able to run 25 miles? Oh, it's going to be really hot. It's like, because you just will, because I've got a responsibility to the client.
Yeah.
So I just will. But yeah, I'm sure when you look back at MDS, you're just like, it's almost like someone else did it. It's like, almost like you've zoomed out and you're looking at it from a different perspective. My physio wanted to talk to me about it yesterday, and I was like, I said to him, honestly, like, my first thing is, it wasn't that hard. But it fucking was that hard, because there were days I cried and was like, I can't do it. I'm too tired. I've had enough. I'm tired. I miss my dog. Everything hurts. I feel like my shin's going to break through the skin in my leg. Like, it's impossible. There were days like that, but I guess, it's that you don't remember pain because your body's trying to protect itself. So
it does. There's like two things at work, isn't there? There's that thing of, once you've done something, for some reason your brain thinks, well, that was simple, and therefore because I've done it, it's it's relatively easy, while also holding that dual thought of, it was really hard. So you're like, well, it can't be that hard because I've done it, but it was really hard.
That's it. It can't be that hard because I've done it.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I'm like, well, if you did it, it can't be that hard. The arc of attrition's hard because you didn't do that.
You didn't do that. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon's Back's hard because you haven't done that yet.
Yeah, and Dragon's Back's different, because Dragon's Back is, everybody in my world knows what it is. They know it's hard. It's billed as like a hard thing to do. So I feel like finishing that would be something I'll be so proud of, because there is a comparison of people that haven't finished it or people that have finished it, and so that kind of feels a bit different. But if I can do it, I feel like it's not that hard, and that is being so horrible to yourself, because I worked my bollocks off to get to the end of Runbrit. I did all my strength conditioning, did all my training. Like, I worked really, really hard to mentally prepare myself and physically prepare myself. But I come back and I'm kicking myself and just being like, well, it can't be that hard if you've done it. Which is just...
And
so does Mo Farah at the end of a race and be like, can't be that hard because I won it?
The thing is, I'm absolutely sure that those exact thoughts that that like Olympic champions and stuff like that have. Because
do you reckon the SAS have that?
The SAS, not the SAS. That's different. That's different.
Oh, they don't have thoughts.
They don't have thoughts. They just act. Yeah. That's what they do. But I imagine that kind of Olympic champions have thoughts. They look, because there's loads of them, isn't there? Who are like, when they're vulnerable and honest, they look back and they were just like, well, I don't think I'm a particularly good at this or whatever. You're like, but you were a fucking Olympic champion. Like, whatever it is that's going on in their mind, all that comparison. But the other thing you were saying there about, because you're doing it with other people, it makes it, and it makes you have to do it. It almost externalizes your achievement, and you then associate that achievement with, not with something that you've done yourself, but something that you've only done because other people were doing it with you. And so it then feels as though you could, like, there's a separation between who you are and who the person was that was doing that achievement. Because that person who did the achievement, was with other people and stuff like that. And I think that's why you kind of feel that those two people at the same time.
But like weirdly, so me, Martin, and Joe were the only ones that did the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everyone else did bits of it, or Ross did quite a lot of it because of injury.
Cheated is the word that you're looking for. Yeah.
Lazy. Lazy is the word.
Lazy.
Couldn't be bothered. Are the words I'm stumbling over. But
should have been ejected early. Like
Lorna was rolling around in a bog 2 days before, saying she'd fallen and couldn't wait there. Yeah, all right. But I look at Joe and I look at Martin, and I am like, you guys are nails. Like, you are nails. And I honestly believe, and I'm like, Joe's incredible. He'd never done a multi-day event. He ran through such pain. He was always very cheerful and very funny. And even when he wasn't cheerful, he was still funny. So we weren't laughing with him. We were laughing at him. But, like, that's how I see them. I'm like, Joe's an incredible runner, really great guy. Martin is the same, very consistent. I just so in awe of them. Like, they're amazing. But when it comes to me, I'm like, but you didn't have an injury like they had, and you didn't suffer like they did, and you didn't have this problem and that problem. So actually, for you, it was easier. But you just can't make yourself appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? But the last thing that you want as well is people being like, "Oh my god, that's amazing," because you do feel like a tit. Because I don't.
I know that's what I say. That's the flip side, isn't it? When people, you're like, right. I wish someone would make a bigger deal of this because I want it to feel like a bigger deal for myself. And then someone starts making a bigger deal, and you're like, oh no, don't! I changed my mind. I don't like it. I don't talk about it. Don't say anything. Don't talk about it. Let's just all be silent.
That's exactly how I feel about it, and it's like it's like literally two personalities about it, isn't it? It's like two.
Why is no one talking about this? Don't talk about this. Why is no one talking? Stop talking about it. It's like you're like Gollum. You're like, what?
Yeah, and then there's why the fuck did I even do it in the first place? Like, if you're not going to make a big deal out of it, or if you're not going to try and trade in on it or monetize it, or
monetize it, surely your plan here is like you think, oh, I've had 6 weeks. That's a good few chapters of a book. Isn't it? Yeah, surely you fill in that
even
book.
Writing the blog, I was like, oh my god, I don't want to. I love you, Mark Atkinson, but I don't want it to read like your book because I don't want it to be a really, really long race report. I mean, Mark is great. The first book's brilliant, but it is a long race report, and I didn't want it to read like a long race report. But I couldn't. There was no danger in there, oh god, I'm really digging a hole. There was no danger or excitement in my blog. There may be some in Mark's book, but I didn't. It's just not enough to put in a book. Who would want to read that? So it will be that much of a book.
No, what you do, the key to writing a book about running is to not talk about the running bit. The running bit is the thing that hooks someone in, and you kind of sprinkle out like this contextual stuff. The thing that you write about is the stuff that we're talking about now, and you have to like philosophize and come up with some like quotes and stuff that you can then use on social media later when you're promoting the book and things like that. When we come up, like we were just talking about like the duality of a runner, like that's there's a chapter of bullshit that you can write about in it, and you just and people go, it's just the philosophy, what you have said is what I think, and all that stuff that people like to say about running books.
I've literally written 40,000 words of my book, and I've only just mentioned running, so I think I'm doing it right. I'm literally doing it right.
I think so. That's the way to do it. So all right, so let's think about Dragon's Back then. So how soon did you start prepping for Dragon's Back off the end of Run Brit?
I started prepping for Dragon's Back way before Run Brit. Like, Run Brit was the training block. Like, obviously I want to do Run Brit, but I was like, I'm going to use this as the training block for back-to-back days.
Right, so what did you learn on Run Brit that's going to help you with the Dragon's Back?
I am a fucking ninja when it comes to administration. And like when I talk about administration, it's literally like, the MDS camp life. It's like bag, water, salt tabs, drugs, making sure that everything
Berbers.
is those things you put in your legs. Flappy socks.
Flappy
gaiters,
socks,
that's what I mean.
Gaiters.
Like, I learned about sleep. I learned, like, you're not going to be playing a guitar and singing songs to everybody at night time. You get in bed at 8 o'clock and go to sleep. I didn't read any books. I didn't watch any TV because I just was like bed and then up again at 5:30, 6. And I nailed that down because I'm very, very bad at getting up early. Eating, well, you don't have a choice, mate. You got to eat, and you got to eat big. And pacing myself and not fucking about trying to go fast on road days. I kept very consistent pace the whole time. being tired, sharing space with people, day after day, big miles, marching up hills, running down them. Like, it was all a conditioning exercise, like a big conditioning exercise to get to Dragon's Back. And then when I finished Rumbre, I was like, now the work begins for Dragon's Back. Navigation, the recce's, looking at the terrain, what shoes you're going to wear, how you're going to pack that bag, what you're going to do every morning, and taking everything I'd learned from Rumbre admin-wise and being like, that's exactly what you're going to do on Dragon's Back, just with added pressure of tents, people you don't know, very, very early starts. It's going to be 4:30, 5 o'clock start for me every day because I'll need to leave at 6 a.m. in order to be able to finish. So
if anyone's listening and not entirely sure how Dragon's Back is broken down and how many days it is, Dragon's Crack. Dragon's Crack. Now that would be an incredible race.
Right.
So how's it broken down?
Should arrange the Dragon's Crack. And
well, that's what you have after the Dragon's Back, isn't it?
Yeah.
How's it broken down? You know, kind of what is the challenge that's different with Dragon's Back from other races? Like, how many days is it? How does it kind of work?
Okay, so it bills itself as the world's toughest mountain race. It used to be 5 days, but now it's 6. It's 380 kilometres. Don't ask me what that is in miles. I think it's about 70 miles. And it starts at Conwy Castle in North Wales, and then it runs all the way down to the bottom of Wales, and ends in Cardiff Castle, down the spine of Wales, which is all the biggest mountains, that is known as the Dragon's Back, because it kind of curls around and it's very spiky. It goes over 17,400 metres elevation, which is absolute jokes. I don't do metres, I do feet, but the first day is 12,000 feet, second day is 11,000, third day is 11,000, fourth day is about 10, fifth day is back up to 12, and then the last day is 4,000 because you're running into Cardiff. You camp at night in shared tents. So, for example, day one, you start at Conwy, you run, I think it's 36 miles on the shorter days. You run from Conwy down to Ogwen Pass. Then at Ogwen Pass is a checkpoint where you could be timed out. It's only 18 miles, but it's gnarly. Then you go up Triven, which is a fucking horrible mountain.
Triven's horrible.
Down Triven, up the Gliders, which is just shale, across the top of the Gliders, down to Penny Pass, second checkpoint. That's 4 miles. So you imagine 4 miles to do that in an hour. When I recce'd, it took me 3.5. Then you get to Penny Pass and you go up Crib Goch. Not around it, up it. Can't get a picture, you have to go over Crib Goch. Then you hit the little mountain after Crib Goch. You hit Snowdon. Then you go down the Rangers Path, the Watkins Path, just to the base of that other little mountain. Then you go down into camp. And you've got 16
That's
hours.
Day one.
That's day one. 16 hours you've got to do that. So if you leave at 6 a.m.
16 hours?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Right?
Yep.
Last year, they lost 70% of the field on day one. Timed out.
Oh, wow.
It was very, very hot. But the DNF rate is extremely high. Because the thing is, that's day one. And then day two, straight over, I can't remember what the mountain is, but there's another mountain. And then you get onto the Rhinogs. And I went and recce'd the Rhinogs and cried a couple of times. Because I was like, this is not safe. This is fucked. Because the other thing with Dragon's Back is, it's self-navigation. There's no arrows. There's no one to help you. And you have to dib in with a little dibber, like orienteering, at about between like 10 and 13 points every day. And all the points are on the summits. So you can basically use whatever route you want to use to get to the summits. But they give you a recommended GPX. Now, the recommended GPX is great. And everyone knows how to use GPX. Everyone knows how to use a map. Except there's no fucking paths. So they reckon 25% of the whole event is road. So you're like, yeah, lovely bit of road. But literally, the road is like a sort of hill that is just fucking steeper than anything you've ever seen. And little chunks of it everywhere. And then I think half of it, or like 75% of the rest of it, is like path, trod, or pathless. So a path is like a little tiny weeny path. A trod is the thing that sheep make when they trot through a bog, and pathless is pathless. So you find yourself on shale, rocks, literally looking at this line. There's no public footpaths. Some of it runs along the Cambrian Way, but the Cambrian Way is gnarly. It's not like fire trails or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's just confusing and exhausting and hard to navigate. And you've got the time pressure because the cut-offs are the cut-offs and they ain't going to let you hang about. And to top it all off, there's no support. The support points, you've got 2, only water, no food, no nothing. You have to take your own food to live for 6 days on. They'll give you breakfast, they'll give you dinner, but everything else you have to take. And there are no shops because you're in rural Wales. So on the 3rd day, there's a few shops. You go to a town. The 3rd fucking day, you're not going to get cold Coca-Cola till the 3rd day. So everything that you want to take with you, you have to bring with you to registration, and that's it. No support. You can't get your sister to meet you and give you a can of Coke when you get disqualified. No one can give you anything.
Oh,
You're not even
really?
allowed to beg a shower. There's no showers for the whole thing. So they give you this bag. You've got to buy this Otlib bag, and it's 59 litres. I've got it over there. It's like a body bag, a dry bag. That's your bag. And in that bag, you have to put your sleeping mat, your sleeping bag, all your kit, shoes, all your food, everything. Then you get a little drop bag, which is like a smaller one, which is only allowed to be 2.5 kilograms. And that one will travel with you to the aid stations.
Yeah.
And then you've got your pack with all your shit in it. So packing is very, very complicated because you need to make sure you get it right. And the mandatory kit list is enormous and they're very strict on it. So there's things like a 300-gram insulated jacket that you have to have on you at all times. And like the only one they want you to buy is the Montaigne one because it's fucking sponsored by Montaigne. So you're looking down the barrel of 200 fucking quid for one bit of kit. And they will check. So there's all this stuff that is totally out my comfort. So Run Brit, we were looked after. I had cheese sandwiches and wraps made for me. I had someone making my little Mountain Dew shake for me. I had crisps everywhere and ice creams and chips.
Maybe this is it. Maybe they they've heard this conversation where if you feel supported, then all of a sudden you disassociate yourself from the success. And so with this one, there is no, you can't like externalize it. You're like, right, this was all on me. This is entirely on me, which is great if when you finish it, because you haven't had the support, you haven't had someone else running with you, you haven't had all of that. So maybe that's their thinking.
I think it is, and I also think it. And I've talked about this before. I think it's the stripping down of yourself, like of you are alone. I've got a friend called Ali little Ali. She's smaller than me, and she's lovely. She lives in Flagstaff, so she's training in the Grand Canyon. And she's coming over. She came over in February. She was like, "What the fuck is this weather, man?" And I'm like, "Welcome to Wales." And I really am hoping to do the whole thing with her. She's a really good runner and she's a mountaineer, and so she can help me over the scary bits. But you're on your own basically, and it's up to you to self-manage. Like to the point where in the mandatory kit there is a blister pack, which you have to buy. I've got it in the cupboard. And it is a pack with razors, everything, with like scalpels and blades. You have to have it because the medics ain't looking after your feet for you. You have to. It's, don't go to the medics with a fucking splinter because they'll tell you to fuck off. It's really, really you're very self-sufficient, although there are supports in place. And I think maybe that's the thing that makes you go, oh, actually, this is something I'm really proud of. But maybe it's not. Because I've started thinking, what if you do finish? What if you come into Conwy Castle and what if you're like last? If you're last, you get a really big trophy. So I wouldn't mind being completely last. But I'm like already going, yeah, but you want to be quite quick. I'm like, fucking hell. It's about survival in this game. But already I'm like, oh, well, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to finish it. It's your brain, isn't it? Just attacking you and trying to pull you down, which blows my mind, but my brain does it a lot. So yeah, I go through these. I'm so focused on this, and I so want to get to the end of it, like more than anything I've ever done before, like more than Run Brit, because I was supported on Run Brit. I had a lot of support, and I don't have any support on this apart from my friend, who may well get timed out on day one, or I might get timed out on day one. I so want to do it. I'm so focused on it. I'm not attaching myself to it. Like I'm so committed to it, but I won't attach myself to it because if I do and I don't manage it, I will be absolutely fucking gutted, and it's super expensive, so I ain't doing it again. Put it that way. I'm not doing that again.
Are you always?
But guess who else is doing it?
Who?
G-Law! G-Law!
Oh, G-Law, what the
G-Law.
fuck is he?
Yeah.
Look at him trying to steal thunder as usual. It's
The
so
thing
that's
about
just
him is, I'm going to
yeah.
read you some messages he sent me. Now, I don't know.
Are we going to incriminate him? Shall I? I'll check
No,
this recording.
they are funny. They're funny to me. I don't know if they're funny to him. He sent me a message, and it said, "Wow, I've just looked at the course. You know, it's more than a marathon a day." And I'm like, "Yeah." It seems like he signed up and he hadn't really read the website at all.
That's G-Law. He's such a baller, isn't he?
And then
The arrogance of the man. The arrogance.
Then he's like, "You know, you got to buy these bags." This was about a week ago. I'm like, "Yes, everybody knows you've got to buy the bags. You have to all have the same bag. That's the whole thing. You all have to have the same bag." Oh. And then he's like, "Do you think I should go and do some recce's?" And I'm like, "Yes, I think you should go and do some recce's."
No, G-Law, don't do it.
He keeps sending me these messages that just make me like, "Oh my God, I'm so worried about you." But because he's such a pocket rocket, I think he'll do super, super well. Like, I feel like he's naturally gifted. And I really hope he does. But the messages I'm getting are making me feel a bit better. Like I'm super, super fucking organised, and he's not that organised. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow. Is G-Law going out too quickly the first day, being ginger? Maybe it'll be hot. Maybe he'll melt. I don't know. But I'm quite excited to have him there. And there's quite a few nice people doing it. Like Gary House is doing it. So I'm kind of hoping it'll be an adventure with a few lols. But I just don't know. Even though I've done the recce's and I've been out there, I just don't know whether it's going to be a super fun adventure, meeting loads of really great people, being really inspired and having lots of cuddles and crying and looking after each other, or absolute fucking nightmare.
No.
I just don't know which one.
It's difficult, isn't it, when like other people are doing it, because you inevitably go, regardless of the total difference of ability, you'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm behind G-Law," or "Oh, I can't believe I'm this far ahead of G-Law. There must be something. I must be doing something wrong, or what? Like, why? You know, that's the problem. Is they
something.
Exactly. I must have missed something. The bastard. Yeah. He's let me run on ahead, and knowing that I've done something wrong, but he won't let me know what it is. You always kind of. It's like when he ran MDS with Pete Reese, and through absolutely nothing that they ever wanted in, because they were both doing it, we just turned that into G-Law versus Pete Reese. And it's awful, because you're just like, well, why are you trying to hijack my race by trying to create this this tension between us that doesn't exist? But you can't help but compare what other people are doing, who and what they're
and do you know what? That creeps in, doesn't it?
It does,
because I'm not very competitive. I'm just not, because I'm not very competitive, because I'm not very good. So I just don't want to let myself down.
You're not very competitive? That's not true.
Do you not think so?
You are competitive.
Who with? I don't think I'm competitive. I don't compete. I don't like try and win things. Wins are usually accidental, or I decide I'm going to try and win maybe like 10 minutes before the end. But
you are competitive. I think part of you, when it comes to like these races and stuff, kind of shuts off that competitive, or tries not to see it in competitive ways, because I think it's difficult when you are doing a race like that, because you're like, well, I'm not going to try and win it, but you can still be competitive in a different sense, in that you want to do as well as you can, and you don't want to feel as though you aren't doing as well as others. I don't know how to communicate that in the right way.
Do you mean you find a nemesis? You go.
Well, that's always the way, isn't it? That you find a nemesis, which is always the best thing ever. It's all the key to choosing the right nemesis, though, is someone who's just not as good as you, but gives the impression they are. That's the best one.
But the thing is, from the outside. So now I'm worried, right, that you're going to get into you're going to be like, I'll mark that week as a week for trolling G-Law and Ali. Ali, you're not doing very well. G-Law seems to be really, really strong. And then it'll get into our heads, and we'll be like, right.
You're talking
Fuck it.
about.
Like
You're talking.
Dom does with me and Lorna. Like Dom does it with me and Lorna. Like on Run Brit, Dom we've got a little group with the 100 group. He's like, which one is going to win though? And I'm like, oh fuck off. But then I'm going to bed going, which one of us is going to win though? Like what? What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he did it on the hunt when I did the 100 slam. Me and Danielle James. He was like, DJ. He's like, I've seen her crew, and I'm like, suddenly I'm in this beef with someone that I don't know, and I don't want to be in beef with them, but I'm in beef with them. And
Yes.
now I said something on the podcast, and their brothers heard, and now they think that, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I just don't want to get sucked into it. I hope that G-Law comes. He won't come first because Simon's running second, and I hope that he has a brilliant race, and I hope that I don't see him. I hope it's like when we were on Arran, I did the Ultra Tour of Arran with G-Law and Hellard and Claire about 4 years ago. I shared a tent with them, and every day when I got back, they were in the tent, clean, washed, showered, and had been asleep for 3 hours. When I got back, they were that much better than me. So I hope G-Law is like that. That's what I want.
You're right. That's the worst. That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing is when you can see you can see the soles of their feet in the distance, and you're just like, fuck, why can't I just like fucking speed up a little bit? Why can't I just be a little bit quicker? Or, you know, it's that constant taunting. Never seeing them at any point during the race is probably the best thing.
And like, I think I'll be shaving those cut-offs. I think I will be shaving. I think I'll be getting in at like 10 to 10, going and getting some food, not sorting myself out, and hopefully being in bed by 11:30, but then up again at 4:30, 5 o'clock. For 6 days, sleeping on a floor with people you don't know. The British thing of going in the tent when everyone's asleep and being like, I'm so sorry, I just need to sort out my things. Like, I'm sure that'll go out the window day two.
So is it like a big shared tent then that everyone's in?
Yeah, it's like one of those Berghaus tunnel tents. So you've got little bedroom compartments for like 2 people. I think it's 8 people per tent. So 2 little bedrooms. So me and Ali, other Ali, are going to share a little one. Gina was like, oh, I see you've picked a female-only tent. And I'm like, all right, love. Because you can have mixed tent. But I'm like, I don't want to be in a fucking tent with a load of blokes who are talking about how many fucking races they've done and metaphorically
I want to be in the place where I'm the only one talking about the amount of races I've done.
Yeah, I want to be the best in my tent. I'm going to pick a tent full of weak women so that I can be the alpha. Why would I want to be in a tent full of men?
Oh, wait a minute. Anyone else that's listening to this who's in Ali's tent, weak women is weak how she's
destroyed. So that I can be the alpha.
She's challenging all of you now. And what we'll do is we'll put up a rating, a scoreboard, in the group. You've created the narrative we're going to go with now. The Bailey G-Law battle. It's time to take G-Law down. I think that's going to be the subtitle.
It's time. Dragons Back 2022. It's time to take G-Law
down. Exactly. Knock him off his perch.
I don't know how you're going to do that, but good luck.
Well, no one knows what's goes on up in the mountains, do they? So
do you know what the other thing I'm really interested in? I'm interested, and I think it is. I know Dragon's Back is hard because I cried up there the other day when I was like, I don't think I can do this, but I'll give it a good go. How hard actually is it? Like, is it? Because there's so many films, so many stories, so many people I've spoken to about it. So there is this is generally what people think of how hard it is. But how hard actually is it? And how much of that is the bravado mythology around the race? Do people come back and really be like, oh man, it's so hard? And it's all based on their experience anyway of what they've done that's hard. Or is it pretty manageable? Like, I'm hoping it's pretty manageable because the race director wants you to finish. You know, he's done lots of stuff. He's added an extra hour on the first day. He does want people to finish. Next year, he's got 3 different medals for people. So if they DNF, they get an egg next year, a little dragon's egg. If they only do half the course next year, they get a hatchling. Like, you don't get that this year. But he's trying to make it more like people feel like they can do it. So I'm very interested to see how hard it actually really is.
Well, it depends. I suppose it depends on what it is. Like what you were talking about on the first day in terms of that. Well, if you were walking that, like a normal hike, that would be pretty straightforward. You know, if there weren't cut-off times, everything. You know, that is a pretty straightforward hike. You know, it's not nice, but it's, you know, it's doable. but it's the adding the running into it. It's adding the speed into it, and that's the thing. So it's like the difficulty isn't necessary. I mean, and I'm talking here from a perspective of someone who is like an experienced walker, experienced hiker, someone that does like mountains all the time. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do.
It's not the moonwalk.
No, exactly. But it is, that route, those like that going Cribgock Ridge, Triffin and the Glidders, those are walked all the time. People do that all the time. It's adding that element in of being timed. So all of a sudden, something which it's very technical and it's very exposed, but if you take your time, it's fine. And the weather it doesn't turn or anything else like that. It can be fine, but that's because you're taking your time and you're doing it. You can do it very purposefully. So like, if you've got that
Let's
little
have
countdown,
a sandwich up here, shall we?
Yeah, exactly. I know that's it. Well, that was a little bit of thing. I'll have a little rest now. Oh, let's have some photos. Exactly.
Yeah.
Adding the time to it, and all of a sudden that transforms it, because you have to. You're almost making like a safety call, safety versus performance, and and competitiveness to try and to get there, and that's a really hard call to make. That's a really hard call to make, because you don't know how to do that unless you've done it time and time again, and and taking calculated risks on a terrain like that is very difficult to do, because even if you have walked it loads of times, you've still not run it. You've still not gone over it with a kind of a time limit as well.
No, and the thing is, you could have walked it loads of times where you can see it, but it's Wales. So, we went up Cribgoch on Sunday night. It was absolutely beautiful. I was shitting myself, and I was very proud of myself that I got over it, because I've never done it before, and I'm terrified of that sort of stuff. The next day, we went up there, and it was cloud, couldn't see anything. And so I might have gone and recce stuff, but when you can't see it and there's no path and you've got to watch and you've got the time ticking away, and you're like, if I go fucking wrong here, you're tired, you're not concentrating properly, you're following someone in front who's like, oh no, but I know a better way. And you're like, I trust you then, and go with them. And then it turns out they fucking don't know a better way. There's so many variables in it. I think maybe that's what makes it hard, is there's so many variables and not sticking to your own lane. And my lane in my head is, you will follow the recommended route. You'll do everything you can with Ali, everything together, until it gets to the point where one of you is going to be timed out, and then you are allowed to leave each other, and just try and stick to your lane. But even on the recce's, we came down the Watkins path, and I was like, it's right here. And there was a bloke in the group who was like, no, it's not, it's this way. I'm like, I promise you it's right. This is the second time I've done this. No, it's not. It's this way, guys. I know. And off they went. And then literally half a mile, he's like, actually, no, we have gone the wrong way. And I'm like, I just followed them. What did I just follow them for? I knew it was that way.
That's the thing.
And
that's the thing.
Really good lesson.
It's
crowd
the thing.
mentality.
That's it. It's all of that stuff. It's like, if you're like, okay, I'm on the route, I'm running it, I'm doing things like that, and all of a sudden you see in the corner of your eye someone running in a slightly different direction. All of a sudden you're like, what have I done wrong? Where are they going? What is it? What do they know that I don't know? And all of a sudden everything goes out the window. Like, you're just like,
even to the point where you get to a checkpoint and they empty their bag, and they're like going through it, and you look at their snacks, you're like, I haven't got any of that. Why are they eating that? Oh shit, I should have bought that. There's no way I can get hold of any of that. Fuck. But look at them. They look really fit. Why didn't I bring rolled up pancakes with chocolate spread in the middle of them? Damn it! My race is over. Like, it's like that. Like, fuck, isn't it? And so I think that I've done a lot of, hey man, I've done a lot of mindset training. Hello, darling. I've done a lot of mindset training, and I've done a lot of, pull your thoughts back to the middle, pull your thoughts back to the middle. That's what I am really going to try and do, and stay in my lane, not get in G-Law's lane or anyone else's lane. Just stick in my lane.
Despite our efforts to try and merge the lanes.
Despite your smart motorway efforts, I'm not doing that, and I'm just going to do my best. And I have a horrible fear being timed out at checkpoint 1 on day 1. But maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. Our brains are amazing at predicting the future.
To be fair,
and they predict the fucking future all the time, but our brains can't fucking predict the future. If they could, we'd all be millionaires. So
to be fair, getting timed out at checkpoint 1 is the best place to get timed out of any of the places to get timed out, because you're still DNF'd, haven't you? I mean, it's embarrassing, but God, at least you haven't had to do half of it.
But I'm going to continue. If I get timed out, you can continue as
can
non-competitive.
you?
So you can continue, yeah, and they'll drop you off and you do half a course every day. So if I do get timed out and I'm not injured, I'm going to go and do. Oh hello! I'm going to go and do non-competitive because it's the greatest recce of all time. And then I will go back at some point and try and do it because it's one of those things where I'm like, I really do want to get to the end of this. I super like I talk to my clients about this, about really think about how you're going to feel at the end of it, when things get really tough. But the thing is, sometimes you can think about that and sometimes it doesn't fucking happen. So that's why you can't be attached to something. You've got to be committed to it. And I want it so badly. And when I look at the training I've done, I do feel like I've really shown up for my training, and I've done the miles. That's not a thing. I've gone to the mountains. I've gone through all of the stuff that could go wrong, and then there's stuff I can't control. Weather, people in my tent, G-Law trying to put whoopee cushions in my bag to fill up space, whatever it is. I can't control that, so I'm not going to think about it. And I'm just going to try and have like the greatest adventure that I can possibly have. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of ultra runners, a lot of people that do marathons, halves, whatever it is, are terrified of the prospect of doing it. But it's really, I said this to a client the other day, we're not saving lives, we're living our life, and we should really embrace it as the adventure that it is and the privilege that we have to be able to stand at a start line of something like that and suck it all in, no matter what happens. And I think I learned from the ARC DNF that if it doesn't turn out the way I want it to, you can take lessons from that. You absolutely can take lessons from it. And so instead of falling into a pit of despair,
that's all you can take, Ali. That's all you can take are lessons.
Can't take anything else, can you? You can't even take a medal.
You can take abuse.
If I fucking get that little dragon, he's coming everywhere with me for the first month I've got him. I'm going to stick him in my car. I'm going to take him to physio. I'm going to take him to pubs. I'm going to go to pubs on my own, even though I don't drink. Put him on the bar and go, that? Yeah. Do you want to know what that's for? Like how Joe Butler has after Run Brit. He's got a T-shirt with his own face on it that says Land's End to John O'Groats that he wears everywhere so that people can talk to him about
just to make sure. Like I don't want to have to explain it. I want you to. I don't even want to talk to you. I just want you to know. I want you to know. That was it. That's great.
And when we're together, we're quite insufferable. We did a bad boy running event in the forest, in the New Forest, and me and Joe were both there. And anything that anyone said, we had an in-joke like, "Oh, Joe, remember when that happened?" And it got to the point where we had to refer to it as the holiday or that jog or just that time, because we became insufferable. And it wasn't because we wanted to be dicks, it's just because we just spent 5 weeks
that's
together.
just who we are.
It's who we are.
That's just who we are as people.
I've got a new tattoo on my back, and it's the whole of the UK with a line, the exact line which we ran down, so I can just go outside, take my top off and be like, that tattoo, that's about this. No, I haven't done that. I won't be doing that yet.
If you have one with the Monarch's Way, that's the one. That's the one that you really should be focusing all your efforts.
Anyone that runs Land's End to John O'Groats on the road, so I'm talking about our friend Dan Lawson and my friend Carla, is a fucking psychopath. And anyone that tries to run the whole of the Monarch's Way is a fucking psychopath. It's literally a psychopath test. It's awful.
Yeah. No. So when is the just like to wrap this up? When is the Dragon's Back? How far out are we from that?
We are 4 weeks out. Actually, we're under 4 weeks now. We're
so
3
close.
and a bit. 5th of September it starts. Finishes 10th of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Yeah, finishes on the 10th. Good at maths. at Cardiff Castle, and the 10th is actually Saturday. And even if don't know anyone that's running in it, and even if if you live near Cardiff or in South Wales, I'd really encourage you to go to Cardiff Castle to see the end. So people start coming in from about 12 o'clock until about 6 or 7. And I think that it's going to be, last year, watching the footage made me cry. Like, it's extraordinary. Like, the families, like the people really push themselves. I feel like crying talking about it. So if you are about and you're a South Wales person, go and watch the end of the Dragon's Back, because that's people that fucking fought, man. Like, my dog's going to be there. It's going to be a beautiful, exactly like I thought the Ark would be. She's going to run towards me. Yeah, that didn't work out very well, did it? So
No.
We'll see. I'm going to do my best, but yeah.
Well, good luck. Good luck. I think you've got this. I don't think whether and I think you have the ability to grab G-Law by the
ginger pubes.
I wasn't going to say that. I was trying to say. I was going to go by the lapels, but I say by the lapels, but you don't really have lapels on a running shirt, do you? So I was trying to grab him by the camelback, or what is the appropriate term for that? Well, I hope you grind him into the ground and make him suffer the indignity of losing out to you, if possible.
I'm going to offer him some earplugs, right? And I'm going to be like, put these in, they're really, really good. And they're actually going to be my headphones. And as he's nodding off to sleep, I'm going to start playing white noise and babies crying from my phone. I'm just going to do little things like that to really help him.
Affirmations. You are going to fail. You are going to time yourself out. You are not going to run.
Yeah, brilliant. That's what I'll do.
Anyway,
he asked me for kit recommendations. I'm giving him really good ones, so maybe I should.
You're making a real error there. You should just go with all of these.
What waterproof should I get? I'm like, Spine Challenger is the absolute bollocks. So he's bought it. I should have gone. Decathlon do a really good one for $12.99, and it's got tape seams. That's what I should have done. Damn it!
Brilliant. Okay.
Anyway, I love you. I'll speak to you soon.
See you later.
Bye 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 bye
bye bye bye.
Fuck you, buddy.